7:20 and I'm finally up. I like to put these in my hair, even though I don't really have bangs, just to give my very, very thin hair some volume. And now, some skincare. Oh, it's still on. Oh, and now for some super basic makeup. I'm running a little bit late, so no time to make this bed, but we'll grab some breakfast and then head out to the car, and hopefully then I can explain what the plan is for today. I do need to grab my laptop though, which is like buried in here. Have the computer, and now grab some socks. We had people over last night, so the kitchen's a bit of a mess.
Bread.
Okay, turns out I have a hole in my sock, but backpack. Coffee. And bread. Let's go. I'm running late. Alright, it's definitely time for me to leave. Today is a Wednesday, and that means I have work part-time in the morning for 4 hours at the East Asian Library. It's on campus, so that's super convenient. So from 9 a.m.-ish until 1 p.m.-ish, I'll be working there. And then I have another mouth surgery planned for today. There we go. Okay. So I did one on Monday with the help of my PI, and that took 3.5 hours, which is super quick for me. That's because my PI did it. And then I did one yesterday for 5 hours, or no, sorry, it was like 5.5 hours, which is pretty difficult. And I have another one scheduled for today, and today is hopefully the last one. I put my instruments in the autoclave already last night, so I just need to go and pick them up. Oh my god, this is jammed. I'm definitely gonna be late. Anyways, I think it's against the laws of both laboratory animal regulation, maybe LAR, I don't remember what the R stands for, or laboratory animal rights, to film the animals, so I will not be able to film the surgery process. I think it's also against just Princeton's iCook laws as well. This nice person let me go. Oh, beautiful. Hopefully I'll be able to talk through some of the things, like the prep and stuff, and maybe even show some things during the surgery that don't actually show any of the animals or anything that's really going on, but we'll see about that. I've been so into the song recently. I found it on one of Shane Dawson's videos, and I've just been repeating it like maybe 20 times a day. I've been thinking about making a cover, but also we know my track record for saying I'm gonna make a cover of something and it never really actually happens. Whoa, there's a cat there. It just passed. There it is. Oh my god. I don't know if you could catch it. There it is. And we're here. It is exactly 9 o'clock, so I'm gonna be 15 minutes late. Usually it's okay, even if I am 15 minutes late. But I should hurry now. I will be very sweaty by the point that I get to the East Asian Library. You see it? It's like 10:30 almost, and this is the storage room. My task for right now is to go through these books in storage, and so I look through this like search base called the OCLC, I think, database, or maybe cataloging system, and see which ones have call numbers and stuff like that, and information that allows these books to be taken out of storage and used. So these books are ones that didn't have satisfactory catalogs, I guess, in the database, so I'm putting them back here and trying to organize them in the most space-efficient manner. And then I'll have to move and search through that database for these books again, all the way over there somewhere, maybe even in the back. And back to cataloging. On my way to lab now, grabbed a little parfait from Princeton. Since I want to get the surgery started by 2, I wanted to get something really quick to eat. This is the autoclave. I had already put my instruments in last night, so someone already took them out and is doing their autoclaving right now. Mine are done. Now we can take them back. It was a little awkward talking during the surgery, so I'm going to voice over the details of the surgery instead. First, I took out a surgery log, and then I put on personal protective equipment to go get the mice I need from where they're housed. Once I have the mice, I weigh them to determine how much analgesic to give them before the surgery based on this chart.
Then I clean up the area where I'll be giving them the injection to prevent any mouse dander from getting on the needle, and I also clean up the stereotax where I'll actually be performing the surgery. I scruff the animal and deliver the injection intraperitoneally, although it won't be shown on camera. I also keep a surgery log in my lab notebook. I record the amount of analgesic and the time at which I deliver it. I also need to give a post-operative dose of analgesic to the mouse I performed surgery on yesterday, so I repeat the same process for that mouse as well. And once both of them had been given their doses, I turned on the recovery heating pad and the germinator. Then I lay out the surgical instruments on a sanitary sheet and begin inducing the animal into the surgical plane using isoflurane as an anesthetic inhalant. The induction steps and the next couple steps are somewhat time sensitive and require greater focus on the mouse to make sure I don't induce him too deeply, so I didn't film. At the point that I'm showing you now, I've already induced the mouse and I'm currently placing the ear bars in, but I'll take some time to explain the steps in between a little with this in the background. So I induce the animal in the induction chamber, and once the animal has been induced, I switch the flow of gas from the induction chamber to the nose cone, from which the mouse will stay induced on the stereotax. I move the mouse onto the stereotax, and I secure the nose cone around the mouse's nose. This will keep them in the surgical plane during the entirety of the surgery. Then I place the rectal temperature monitor in, and I lubricate the mouse's eyes. Then I begin to place the ear bars in. These are bars that secure the skull so that the head doesn't move during the surgery. It's really important to get the skull completely secured so that when we perform the craniotomy or the injections, we can perform these at the exact coordinates we aim to. Since I'm still getting used to finding this spot, it often takes me 20 to 30 minutes to secure the ear bars. I proceed slowly and always check for resistance. No resistance means I'm in the wrong spot. And I also check for any movement from the mouse. If the mouse starts moving and waking up out of the plane of anesthesia, then I'm in the wrong spot. When the ear bars are in the right spot, the animal should feel little to no pain. And once I have the ear bars in, I remove the hair above the brain by cutting some and removing the rest with nair. Then I clean the scalp with hydrogen peroxide and iodine. I do 3 rounds of this. Then I can make the incision down the midline of the scalp, revealing the skull, and finally begin to level or zero the skull. The mouse's brain might be tilted a little forward or backward or to the left or right, so zeroing allows us to determine how far off from center the skull is and get it centered. The point which our lab considers baseline is the midpoint of the anterior sinus, and the coordinates that I've prepared to inject at are all relative to this point. The X, Y, and Z values you see to my left indicate the coordinates in millimeters that my instrument is at. Once I have found the baseline point and touch down on the skull, I make all the values 0. Then I first zero the anterior-posterior axis. I move to a point on the y-axis that's behind lambda and determine at what z-coordinate I touch down on the posterior part of the skull. If there's more than a 0.020 millimeter difference, then I need to adjust the z-axis of the stereotax to get the skull centered. This can take multiple tries because 0.02 millimeters is tiny, and trying to move the skull just a tiny bit to get below this difference can be extremely difficult. I then repeat a similar process for the medial-lateral axis. Sometimes zeroing the skull can take me an hour and a half, but it's worth putting the time into because we need the coordinates that we inject/place the fiber at to be accurate. So that concludes zeroing, and I can move on to the drilling. I use a very fine drill bit to drill through the skull only. This is considered the craniotomy. There isn't a specific width of the skull, so I drill at least 0.25 millimeters down from the surface of the skull, and then drill further if there's still bone left, usually by 0.01 increments. I confirm by moving the drill bit down without any power on to the depth that I had drilled down to previously, and check that I don't see the skull depress when I get down to that depth. Finally, I can inject my viral solution using the nanoject and a glass pipette tip. These are the coordinates at which I drilled and will be injecting. I break the pipette tip back a little bit to open up the tip and then place it onto the stereotax to re-establish my baseline coordinate, since I have a new instrument of a different size on the stereotax. Then I pull up an appropriate amount of viral solution, about 200 nanoliters. I place my pipette at the right X and Y coordinates and try to determine the surface of the brain, and then go down from there to the depth that I had written in my notebook. I take about 3 minutes to bring it down and then press inject. I wait about 5 minutes after that for the tissue in this region to absorb the viral solution before I can pull the pipette out.
I just finished injecting, and right after you inject, you're supposed to wait 5 minutes to prevent any from rising up as you pull the pipette out. So in that 5-minute break, I'm gonna get some coffee and something to eat. So good. They usually don't have any snacks left over, but I guess everyone's gone for the end of the summer, so there's still some leftovers. And now it's time to go back.
And back to the voiceover. After the 5 minutes, I confirmed that the meniscus in the glass pipette moved, and then slowly pull the pipette out of the brain, and then I can place the fiber in. So I place the fiber into an instrument that can be placed on the stereotax and implant the fiber in the coordinates that I had put in my notebook after re-establishing the baseline with this new instrument. We use dental cement to keep the fiber in place, so I mix the cement with a scoop of this powder, 4 drops of the Metabond, and a drop of the catalyst. This dries super quickly, so I wasn't able to record as I placed the cement onto the mouse's skull and the fiber. While I waited for it to dry, I prepared the new cage the mouse would recover from surgery in. And I finished the surgery, finally getting the mouse off of anesthesia at 7:27 p.m. I made sure to turn off everything and clean up as I waited for the mouse to recover from anesthesia and left around 9 p.m.
Yeah, so it's almost 9:30. I turned the ISO on, or the anesthesia on, at like 2:50, I think. Even though I turned off the anesthesia around 7:30, I found that when the surgery takes longer than 3 hours, especially since I'm inexperienced and I probably cause a little more pain than an experienced person does, they take a lot longer to get fully recover out of the anesthesia. So particularly for me, because I'm concerned that I cause more pain than they would usually feel if like my PI did it or something, I wait to see eating or drinking, grooming, and I check their body temperature. So I'll feel their tails. A lot of the time their tails will feel really, really cold right after they've woken up out of the anesthesia. So my mouse was eating and he was grooming maybe like half an hour after I took him off of anesthesia, but his body temperature was still really cold and he hadn't drank anything. When they're recovering from surgery, we give them hydrogel, or diet gel. We give that to them as they're recovering, and after a couple days after their surgery as well. But he wasn't drinking the hydrogel at all. Like, he would refuse to eat the hydrogel. So I got kind of worried, and so I waited until his body temperature increased. And I didn't get to see him eat the hydrogel, but he was definitely eating his pellets. So at least there was that. I returned him back to the vivarium. And hopefully I can check on him tomorrow and he will be okay. Also, one of the most beautiful buildings on campus, arguably. 9 p.m. at night is the only time that I can actually film myself as I'm vlogging. Otherwise I get too embarrassed. Alright, it is 9:28 and we're finally leaving. It's really creepy. And we're home. Finally, time for bed, and I brought some strawberries. I was supposed to work out a little bit and do some stretches, but I'm honestly too tired, so I'm gonna make sure that I get myself out of bed and brush my teeth and wash my face so that my skin doesn't get any worse. That was it for a full day in my life. I need to go to bed. Otherwise, I will not even wake up by 8 tomorrow. So, okay. Another day of work and lab, although no more surgeries. All right. Good night, guys.